Yo, what's going on, Headliner Nation? It's your boy, The Doc, and we are back for the Week 4 injury update show. You guys know the deal by now. Every single week, I, an actual doctor, will go through the entire NFL slate, tell you about all the injuries that you need to be aware of for your fantasy lineup decision-making. This show is getting more and more important as the injuries start piling up for these teams. We've got bye weeks coming up next week, so we are going to be paying close attention to those teams that are going into the bye. Maybe it'll tell us a little bit about what they're planning on doing with their injured players this week. But we got a lot of guys to talk about, so let's jump into it. All right, guys, normally I would talk about Thursday Night Football, but there weren't a lot of guys injured heading into that game, and I'm recording before the game actually happened. So if anything did happen in that game, it will be in the pinned comment down below. It's also where I will be updating any injury news that we have heading into the weekend and during the weekend. So if you're coming to the video a little bit later in the weekend, make sure that you check that pinned comment down below for any updates. But we're going to head straight into the Sunday slate. We got Saints at the Falcons. Saints running back Alvin Kamara has a hip and rib injury. I do expect him to be able to play in this game. He is hurting a little bit, but most of the running backs that are carrying their entire offense on their back would be at this point. He's got 71 touches, I believe, through the first 3 weeks of the NFL season. So a ton of work for at the vet, and they're going to get him some rest in practice. Nothing too concerning here with Alvin Kamara. As for the Falcons, they're pretty healthy. So we're heading over to the Bengals at the Panthers. Now, Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase popped up on the injury report Wednesday with a shoulder issue. I didn't really find any reason to be concerned about this or that he wouldn't play. The good news is T. Higgins wasn't even listed on the injury report this week. He's looking to bounce back now that he is past that hamstring strain. As for the Panthers, Adam Thielen ended up on IR with a hamstring strain as well, so he's going to be out for about 4 weeks. Moving on to the Rams at the Bears. Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp still dealing with the high ankle sprain. He is not expected to play this week. Bears wide receiver Keenan Allen has the heel/Achilles injury. They won't really tell us exactly what is going on with Keenan Allen, but I think he returns this week, but I wouldn't really trust him in my lineup. Despite horrible offensive line play, the Bears offense actually put up some pretty decent passing numbers last week, but Allen returning kind of muddies the water for everybody in that passing offense. I don't know if we can trust Cole Kmet. I don't know if we can trust Rome Odunze. When Allen was healthy, he was a target monster, 11 targets in the first week. So him coming back actually probably makes it a more complicated situation for the Bears and their pass catchers. Moving on to the Vikings at the Packers. Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison has an ankle sprain. He missed the last 2 weeks, but rumor is that he is trending towards playing this week. I'd be hesitant to play him or Jalen Nailor this week because I think they're going to kind of eat into each other's targets, and it's hard to tell which one is going to have that touchdown upside. Pretty much just sticking with Justin Jefferson and moving on from the Vikings. I don't mind streaming Sam Darnold. He's clearly one of the best fantasy quarterbacks, at least to start the season, so I don't mind throwing him in my lineup as well. This is good news for Sam Darnold, not so much for Jalen Nailor. As for the Packers, quarterback Jordan Love has that MCL sprain. Now, I said when this injury occurred that I expected him to play within the first 3 weeks of his recovery. We're at week 3. I think that he is pacing towards playing in this game. It's probably a 90% chance that he plays. So I guess technically he's a game time decision, but I'm predicting that he's going to end up playing. Good news for all of your Packers wide receivers. Heading over to the Jaguars at the Texans. Jaguars tight end Evan Ingram has a hamstring strain. He has already been ruled out for this game. Now, they've got a short week, so I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of tease it out a little bit more, but I don't think he's going to play in this week at all. So don't expect much from Evan Ingram, even if he is able to play. I'm not throwing him in my lineup. As for the Texans, running back Joe Mixon has an ankle sprain. He's also unlikely to play this week, and it was even considered week to week when they were giving press releases this week. So not expecting Joe Mixon to be back. Running back Dameon Pierce coming off the hamstring strain. He was his backup to start the year, but missed the last 2 games with this hamstring injury. His return could hamper any RB1 dreams of people that picked up Cam Akers last week. I think they would split carries pretty much immediately. Reports are optimistic that Dameon Pierce is going to come back, but he did not practice Wednesday, so just something to pay attention to. Moving on, we got Steelers at the Colts. Now, Steelers running back Jaylen Warren has a knee injury. His MRI was clean, but he was pulled out of the game due to him having a limp according to Mike Tomlin. So I couldn't really find any video of him having a limp, but Mike Tomlin must have seen something that he was concerned about. He's not practicing to start the week. I would not be surprised if he does not play in this game. Now, they've also lost linebacker Alex Highsmith coming off the edge. He's got a groin strain. He's expected to miss multiple weeks. The Colts are pretty healthy, so we're going to head over to the Broncos at the Jets. Broncos lost their starting linebacker Alex Singleton to an ACL tear, so he's done for the year. Jets tackle Morgan Moses has an MCL sprain. He is most likely not going to play this week or next week. Olu Fashanu, the Jets' first-round pick, would slide into right tackle, a position he did not play in college. So we'll see how they can handle the Broncos' pass rush on the right side. Moving on to the Eagles at the Buccaneers. Eagles have a bye week next week, so just worth paying attention to with that. Wide receiver Devontae Smith has a concussion. I don't expect him to play. A.J. Brown's still in with that hamstring strain. Not expecting him to play either. And then tackle Lane Johnson also done with a concussion. So a lot of important players out for the Eagles this week. As for the Bucs, they've got 16 players on the injury report, including both of their star wide receivers, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Both of those guys are dealing with minor nicks. I'm not really expecting them to miss this game at all, but we're just keeping an eye on them for the weekend. All right, let's head into the midday slate. First up, we got Commanders at the Cardinals. Commanders running back Austin Eckler has been ruled out with a concussion. Expect a big week from a volume perspective for Brian Robinson Jr. He should be in your lineups, just given on the volume alone. As for the Cardinals, tight end Trey McBride also has a concussion. Looked less shaken up than Lions safety Brian Branch after the two knocked heads on Sunday. Pretty brutal collision there, but both of them ended up in concussion protocol afterwards. We rarely see players anymore come back after just 1 week after a concussion, so I would be surprised if Trey McBride played in this game. Marvin Harrison Jr. also on the injury report with a quad injury, but I'm not really too concerned that he's going to miss any time. You can still fire him into your lineups. Heading over to the Patriots at the 49ers. Patriots tight end Hunter Henry has an ankle sprain. He crashed back down to earth in week 3 after a solid week 2. I think this ankle issue is to blame. He's going to play, but I'm looking at other options personally. If he's banged up, he's just not going to be that dynamic of a player. And the passing offense is just so hit or miss for the Patriots. Now, 49ers, they got a lot going on right now. Deebo Samuel still dealing with his calf strain. He's not expected to play this week. George Kittle has a hamstring strain. He's going to be a game time decision. A midweek injury last week ended up having him miss that game. So George Kittle, given his history, it's a good news that he's practicing, but I'm not expecting him to be someone that we know about prior to basically Sunday morning. So just have a plan in place if you're planning on playing George Kittle. Running back Christian McCaffrey, some of the bigger injury news this week. Still dealing with that Achilles tendonitis, still on IR, but he headed to Germany this week. He got an advanced treatment for his Achilles tendonitis. Germany's laws and practices are a lot different in regards to PRP and stem cell treatments, so I wouldn't be surprised if he got a treatment that is not FDA cleared here in the US. Again, not a performance enhancer, but is something that they are a lot more open to trying over in Germany. We've seen a lot of professional athletes head over to Germany. Most famously, probably Kobe Bryant with his knee. He had multiple trips to Germany trying to get stem cell treatments in order to basically try to regrow a portion of the cartilage. We've also seen Ray Lewis do that. We saw Peyton Manning do it. So it's not like this is something that we've never seen from an NFL player, but I'm not going to bore you with the details about the differences between a PRP and a stem cell treatment over there versus over here. Just know that it is a treatment that they can do that we have not cleared here. It's not performance enhancing, but the problem is it does take a lot of time to actually see results from those treatments, usually 2 months at a minimum. So I think we're still pretty far away from seeing Christian McCaffrey play in the NFL this season. I've said for a while now, I think week 10 after their bye is probably the earliest that we see Christian McCaffrey, but it could be all the way until the back third of the year. So don't be surprised if we start to hear bad news coming from Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers on when he's actually going to return, or even worse, they tell us nothing and you're just holding him for that long. I'm actually looking to trade Christian McCaffrey in most of my leagues. I'm trying to get something where I know I'm going to have a player that I can use week to week in fantasy. I don't like having players on my bench that I just don't know when they're going to return. Now we're moving on to the Chiefs at the Chargers. Chiefs don't really have any injuries to talk about, but the Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert dealing with the high ankle sprain. He's going to be a game time decision this week. Managed to play about 3 quarters last week before being ruled out in Pittsburgh. He re-aggravated the high ankle sprain that he came into the game with. He is pushing to play, but with both of his starting tackles hurt and unlikely to play, the team also heading into a bye in week 5 and a matchup with the back-to-back Super Bowl champs. I would not be surprised if the team held Justin Herbert out this week just for his own health benefits, trying to get that ankle right. And it would probably be the best move for your fantasy team too if you rested him this week, even if he plays. Heading over to the Browns at the Raiders. Browns tight end David Njoku also has a high ankle sprain. Didn't practice on Wednesday, but there are some reports that he's trying to play this week. I'm still not projecting that he will actually return this week, but it's at least moving in the right direction. Week 5 looks a lot more realistic for him. Running back Jerome Ford dealing with a knee injury, didn't practice on Wednesday. We'll see what happens with that. It didn't look like it was anything too crazy serious with him. Probably just getting some rest after all the workload that he's had the first 3 weeks with Nick Chubb out to start the year. And then we got a bunch of tackles and guards messed up for the Browns this week. It's not surprising that their offense has looked so bad. Half their offensive line is hurt right now. As for the Raiders, they got defensive end Max Crosby dealing with a high ankle sprain as well. He's a game time decision. He hurt his ankle 2 weeks ago against Baltimore. Managed to play after being limited in practice all week. The only difference is he did take Wednesday off this week. So we'll see if Max Crosby is back practicing. He's said he's going to play even if he's only at 50%. So I'm not too worried about it, but just know the star pass rusher for the Raiders is banged up. Might be a good thing with all of the offensive line issues that the Browns are having right now, that they're not going to have maybe 100% Max Crosby wreaking havoc on their quarterback each and every snap of this game. All right, moving on to Sunday Night Football. We got Bills at the Ravens. Bills have a couple defensive players that are not expected to play. No one really too worried about from a fantasy perspective in this game. So we're going to head straight in to the Monday night doubleheader. We got Titans at the Dolphins. Titans do have a bye week next week, but they're pretty healthy overall. So we're not going to spend too much time on them. But the Dolphins, they still got a problem at quarterback. Tua is on IR with his concussion. Skylar Thompson has a rib contusion now. He's going to be a game time decision. I don't think anyone was really itching to start Skylar Thompson, but it does matter for the offense as a whole. The team's already said they're kind of looking at their options at quarterback. I would not be surprised if Skylar Thompson doesn't play or at least doesn't start in this game. They've got Tyler Huntley on the roster. He could get a chance to start. Skylar Thompson did not look good in his first start last week. Running back Raheem Mostert has that chest injury. I do think he could end up coming back this week. Missed last week's game, but did practice all week leading up to that. I'd expect with more practices this week that he will be active for this game. Good news for the running game at least, or if you have Devon Achane, at least you have somebody that you know could be coming in to spell him a little bit, so you're not quite as worried about his injury risk as he tries to carry this team on his back by himself. At least last week he was. Moving on to the Seahawks at the Lions. Last game of the week. Seahawks running back Kenneth Walker has that oblique strain. He's going to be a game time decision. Risky start this week for fantasy. He's missed last 2 games. This oblique strain, average time of return is about 3 weeks. So at least we're on pace for him possibly suiting up this week. He did finish last week with a limited practice, so I would expect him to at least be a game time decision for this week. If you're willing to wait for him, I wouldn't mind the play, but just make sure that you have somebody that you can throw in on Sunday night. He needs to be in your flex spot on Monday night. Sorry, needs to be in your flex spot though. Do not let Kenneth Walker be in your running back slot and then not have a backup for him. You need that flexibility. That's why we call it the flex spot. As for the Lions, they also have a bye next week. So Sam Laporta is probably the biggest one to talk about. He's got a low ankle sprain. I don't expect that he will play in this game. Now, normally with a low ankle sprain, I would say, probably a good chance they tape him up. He's going to try to play, but with the extra time off coming up, the team playing on a Monday night does cloud my projections just a little bit. Doesn't give me quite as much info to go off of. We don't have quite as many practice reports. I think they're going to use Brock Wright in this spot, give Laporta a full 2 weeks to recover with the bye week. And I think that's a good decision for him and for our fantasy teams long term, because I don't want them throwing Sam Laporta out and having this ankle issue become a bigger issue than what it already is. And of course, safety Brian Branch, like I mentioned earlier in the video, he's out with a concussion after knocking heads with Trey McBride in week 3. All right, guys, that's it for the injury update show. I want to thank our friends over at Underdog. Make sure you use the code HEADLINERS when you sign up over at Underdog. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit over there. And I'm going to put my Underdog bet of the week here at the end. I like Jaden Reed, as long as Jordan Love is back and playing for the Packers, to hit the over on his receiving yard total. If you want to go bet that, make sure you use the code HEADLINERS when you sign up. But that's all I got for you guys this week. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Leave me any comments if you want me to answer a question. And if you haven't already, hit the join button down below. Become an exclusive member of Headliner Nation. Join our exclusive Discord where you can talk to me and Jake and Kyle and Taylor and all the guys over at the Headliners anytime you want throughout the week, help you make lineup decisions, help you with any injury advice that you need. That's the best place to get a hold of us, is over at the Discord at Headliner Nation. So hit that join button, become a member today. That's all I got. I'll see you guys next week.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.